Black Clover had one of the coolest fights in all of anime, and it's probably not what you'd think. Today I'm going to talk about a few reasons why it's special to me, how it changed how I view the series as a whole, and how other anime should be taking notes. Let's talk about the Black Bulls fight with Veto. The first thing that needs to be recognized is probably my favorite part of this fight, and that is literally everyone matters. It's funny because conceptually that's so simple that it feels obvious. Successfully create build, and then pace the fight so that everyone can get a moment to shine. But it's rarely done this well. Other anime? Pay attention. When Veto arrives, it's Magna and Luck who have the unfortunate task of dealing with him. While this threat is monstrous, the story takes its time to flesh these two out. Luck annoys Magna and his pranks irritate him, but at the end of the day, he admires him as a fighter and sees Luck as his best friend. Luck originally didn't take Magna seriously, but saw something dangerous lurking underneath, and that intrigued him. He also found him endlessly entertaining. When he thinks about it, Magna was his first friend. Exploring all this while they gave their all was great in its own right, but then we tie it back to Asta when they use his catchphrase. They refuse to give up because they've been impacted by him and want to keep setting a good example. They have an awesome moment when they do a combo attack with everything they have right at Veto's weak spot. Unfortunately, it's not enough. Right as that happens, Asta and Kyoto arrive and they begin an entirely new 2-on-1 assault versus Veto. It doesn't take long for those two to look cooked. Thankfully, when it appears as though they've met their end, Noelle and Kahono show up, and we have our third different group to take on this beast. We learn that Kyoto and Kahono have a sibling promise, and their dream is to get famous. They want to sing and dance on the shore for everyone to see. Kahono's singing magic buffs her brother, and he attacks Veto. They really make a point of making everything here seem hopeful. It's something I'll touch on in a further point, but that hope is quickly snuffed out. Despite that, Kahono remains defiant, even though the only one left standing is Noelle. She's shaking in fear, but Kahono believes in her, and we see how truly strong she is with her first ever Sea Dragon's roar. It's easily the most hype part of the fight so far. When Yami says, "Get him," you're saying the same thing as a viewer. It takes a huge chunk out of Veto, and finally we see progress has been made in this fight. Only for Veto to have a third eye appear and regenerate his wounds entirely. Noelle is completely out of energy and everyone else is knocked out. Once again, it looks like it's over. Well, not yet. Asta is gifted some energy from Kahono and deflects a blast that certainly would have ended Noelle's life. Noelle's strength hypes Asta up. Meanwhile, Finral has been watching. He wants to get out of there. Veto is terrifying, but Finral can't abandon his team despite how afraid he is. Vanessa arrives too. They have to keep pushing forward because that's what Asta is doing. We get this awesome fight with those three facing off against Veto, using their abilities really creatively. For the first time, Veto is legitimately taking damage strike by strike. However, the longer it goes, the more he's able to time their movements. That's something Yami points out and says they have to push past their limits. And they do. Now everyone is motivated. Hope keeps building. Despite one mistake meaning certain death, Asta has no doubts in his teammates helping him succeed. Ghosh, Gray, and Charmy all pop up, and we now have a 7-on-1 fight going on, and it's so cool because none of them give up. Asta strikes the final blow, and the team's hope has successfully won out. Vanessa and Finral immediately embrace Asta. They were only able to accomplish this because of all of their collective efforts. From Magna and Luck to Noelle to Finral, Vanessa, and the others, they wore Veto down bit by bit until Asta could strike him down. Everyone mattered. Except this powerhouse still isn't done. He comes to one more time, only for Yami to finally arrive. He's proud of his team, but now it's his turn. He hits a dimension slash, and now the fight is truly over. Which takes us to the next thing I love about this fight, the battle between hope and despair. From the beginning, Veto tells a watching Yami he's going to kill all of the Black Bulls in front of him and bring him to despair. There's this cool balance of each new group entering the fight against Veto bringing hope to both the characters in show and the viewer, only for it to inevitably fall into despair as they aren't enough. This cycle keeps happening, but each group refuses to let the actions of their fallen comrades go in vain. And I love that element of lingering hope they keep passing down to others. It adds value to their actions, but also shows how powerful Veto is. On the despair side, that peaks when Veto shatters Kyoto and Kahono's dreams. Right after we see what they've lived their whole lives for, it's taken from them. He cuts off the leg of the man who desires to dance, and crushes the throat of the girl who wants to sing. It's petty as hell, but also awesome with how fitting it is towards everything. Or how Veto baits Asta in to steal his sword. He wanted to tear Asta down and break his will, but he couldn't. This isn't random either. We get these glimpses of Veto's past. The elves once had hope, but it was fragile. Their personification of hope was stolen, and that only left despair. More of that gets explained later, but you understand why the themes are so important here. The last thing I want to talk about, and the part that changed the show for me, was how much story was packed into this fight. On top of the broken dreams of Kyoto and Kahono, when Kahono remains defiant and lets Noelle know she believes in her, we get the culmination of dozens of episodes of growth for Noelle. Her confidence was shattered by her siblings, and she always puts up a tough front, but she's really a scared girl who can't control her own power. Having someone believe in her, having a flashback and hearing that the only shame is in staying weak, these things motivate her to not only attack, but drop her whole facade. Accuracy issues? Who cares? When Veto calls her royalty, something she has done herself repeatedly, here, she identifies as a black bull, a beautiful moment of growth, and releases all of her power to protect her friends, giving us easily her coolest moment to date. But it's more than Noelle. We have the added weight to the friendship between Luck and Magna that explains more of their hijinks. We get our first look at Grey's true form almost 50 episodes in. Charmy has one of her first fights, and it's the most serious one we've seen of her. We have to see Finral overcome his cowardice and how Asta inspired that and other members of the team. We see Vanessa's past, where she was caged up in the witch's forest and believed her fate had been decided. Finral's family called his defensive magic useless, and his golden child brother took over his presumed role as leader of the house. Yet, Vanessa chose to fight against fate, and Finral used his magic his own way to help Asta succeed. All of these elements had been building for a long time. To see genuine growth or these new character moments for basically the entire team made this all so much more meaningful, especially when you see all these different members inspiring each other in different ways. One fight made me love the team and the show on a whole new level, and for that, I find this fight to be special. With that, I'm out.